Hi, this is Go Sports. I'm here with Nina Salazar.
And I'm here with Tom Melton.
And these are our top stories. The first story that we have to talk about is Junior Seau's tragic death. He committed suicide just a couple days ago by shooting himself in the chest. The police have officially ruled it a suicide, and he actually killed himself in a similar manner to other future or former NFL players. So a lot of people are considering possible brain trauma that led to depression as a reason that he killed himself. A lot of former players and teammates have said that he wasn't the kind of person to try and accept help from people, and he was very private about his playing days and obviously his mood. So it's a lot of different things are coming out about it right now. But the doctor who actually discovered CTE in former players actually assisted with this autopsy, and Boston University is interested in studying his brain to see if it's similar to other players that have had head trauma in the past. So we'll keep you up to date on that. The other thing is Terrell Suggs, the outside linebacker from the Baltimore Ravens, injured his Achilles yesterday. And so he is trying to get back by the middle of 2012. It's unclear to me whether he'll actually make it there, since Achilles injuries are pretty tough to come back from. But that's his target date, so we'll see if he comes back in time.
All right, so some more injuries, but in the college sphere now. Michigan State players William Golston and Lawrence Thomas suffered minor injuries Wednesday after being involved in a rollover car crash near Brighton, Michigan. All involved were wearing seatbelts, though, so luckily they only suffered minor scratches and abrasions, according to the police. Golston is a sophomore defensive end who earned second team All Big Ten honors in 2011, and Thomas is a freshman linebacker, so luckily they're being safe and wearing their seatbelts, so not too much injuries. They're not like life-threatening or anything. Also, Notre Dame quarterback Tommy Rees got into a bit of trouble. He was chased down after attending an off-campus house party. Happened at about 12:30 a.m. and he ended up knocking the wind out of the officer as he was trying to chase him down, and the officer had to pepper spray him to kind of be able to arrest him. And the linebacker for the team, Carlo Cabrese, was also arrested for disorderly conduct because he decided to intervene and tell the officer did he know who Rees was and that his people were going to get him. And so the officer, after a couple of warnings, took that as a threat and ended up arresting him as well. So they're both going to be, or they're waiting to see if they're going to face charges and what happens with that. And obviously Notre Dame is going to take action. The coach just said he's trying to look in to see all of the facts about it and doesn't want to speak on it right now until he knows everything that happened. So also, it just seems like a lot of bad news happening. Yankees closer Mariano Rivera suffered a torn ACL and a torn meniscus in his right knee after an awkward fall during batting practice. He usually shags fly balls to kind of stay in shape. That's the way he does it, and he just kind of fell very awkwardly and had to be taken off with a stretcher. And so Rivera is obviously the most successful closer of all time. He's a 12-time All-Star, and so when he was asked if he thought he'd come back from this injury, he was really overcome with emotion. He was kind of tearing up, crying. He was unable to speak, but when they asked him to describe his pain, he just said it's more mental than physical right now, and he feels like he let the team down. So his baseball career is Saves leader with 608 in his 18-year career. He's 42, so he kind of had already been hinting that this would be his last season. So there's a lot of talk right now about if he'll ever pitch again. So everyone's kind of waiting on that to see if it'll happen. Also, for some local baseball, the Bucks just ended their series with Ripon. They split really good games. Yannick was completely on fire with home runs in almost every single one of the games. So what that means now is that they're going to be awaiting the weekend where Ripon and St. Norbert are going to play. And so if they split, they will have a playoff game on Monday at 3:15 down at Strong. And if Norbert takes 3, then they're already in the playoffs. So they're kind of just waiting out the weekend to see what happens with that, because they just ended their regular season at Rockford losing. But just waiting to see what Norbert and Ripon do this weekend to see where they're going to be at as far as playoffs go. So now Tom is going to give us some draft news updates.
Absolutely. So the NFL draft happened this past weekend. A lot of interesting stuff happened. Obviously, Andrew Luck went number 1 overall to the Colts. We all knew that was going to happen. Then Robert Griffin III, the Heisman Trophy winner from Baylor, went number 2 overall to the Redskins. they traded up for number 6 overall to number 2 weeks ago to make sure they could get him. So that was an expected pick as well. The first surprise came when the Cleveland Browns traded up for number 4 to number 3 overall. I think the Vikings kind of swindled them in this trade, but I think the Browns were worried about Tampa Bay moving up from number 5 to number 3 with the Vikings to pick Richardson right ahead of the Browns. So I think the Browns were kind of talked into this trade by the Vikings so that they could make sure that they got Richardson. Then the Vikings went with Matt Khalil, number 4 overall, the offensive tackle from Southern Cal, the best left tackle prospect in the draft. Then one of the biggest surprises to a lot of people, but one that I actually predicted in my mock draft, was Justin Blackmon going number 5 overall after the Jacksonville Jaguars traded up for number 7 overall to number 5. I was probably one of the only people that predicted that would happen, and it happened, so that was pretty impressive. Then number 6 overall, we had another trade when the Dallas Cowboys moved up to get Morris Claiborne, the cornerback from LSU. Then number 7 overall, we had the Tampa Bay Buccaneers selecting Mark Barron, a safety from Alabama. I thought that was one of the biggest reaches in the draft. I think that when you pick a safety in the top 10, he's got to be an elite guy, and I don't think Mark Barron is an elite guy like Troy Polamalu or Ed Reed necessarily. So I think that's a pick that they're going to regret in a couple years, but that's just my opinion. Then number 8 overall, the Miami Dolphins selected Ryan Tannehill, a quarterback from Texas A&M. Number 9 overall, Carolina Panthers selected Luke Kuechly, a linebacker from Boston College. And rounding out the top 10, the Buffalo Bills selected Stephen Gilmore, a cornerback from South Carolina. I'm not very high on Gilmore. I don't think he has very good instincts, but he's got a lot of potential because of his combination of size, speed, and athleticism, so a lot of people were high on him. Now the local teams, we've got Chicago Bears picking Shea McClellan, a defensive end or outside linebacker from Boise State. I actually had an opportunity to talk to McClellan when I was at the Senior Bowl. Really hard worker, really good motor. He's definitely going to get a lot of effort sacks because of his versatility that he presents playing opposite Julius Peppers when he comes into those packages. And then the Green Bay Packers, number 28 overall, selected Nick Perry, defensive end / outside linebacker from Southern Cal. He's got a lot of potential. I kind of worry about his hip stiffness and his ability to bend and get under offensive tackles on the outside, but he's got a lot of potential. And playing outside another Trojan, Clay Matthews, he'll be able to learn the ropes from him. So he's got a lot of upside there. Obviously, the big news was Derek Carrier signing with the Oakland Raiders, and we have an interview with him coming up next, so stay tuned. Well, first of all, Derek, thank you for your time. I really appreciate you coming to talk with us a little bit more in depth. I know it's been a busy, hectic week for you. What was it like when the draft ended, and was your phone ringing off the hook?
When the draft ended, yeah, my phone was ringing a lot, mostly from my agent. He, luckily, for me, dealt with all the negotiations, talking with teams, and he's the one that ended up, settling the deal with Oakland.
Okay.
So how did you decide on signing with Oakland ultimately?
After talking with my agent, like I said, we was calling back and forth, for probably half an hour, just looking over guys on the roster, positions, chances to play and contribute to make the 53-man roster. After debating that, we decided Oakland was probably the best fit.
Okay. When do you have to head out there?
I'll be heading out next week, actually a week from today, so the 10th of May.
Oh, wow. Okay, before graduation.
Yeah.
Oh, wow. So are you getting nervous about going to a completely new area?
Yeah, just a little bit. I think, it'll be a fun change. But I do have a friend out there. It's funny. I got a Facebook message from one of my friends I played basketball with in high school. He's out in San Francisco right now working with computer programming. He told me to hit him up with a text or something as soon as I get out there, and we can go out for drinks, even though I won't be drinking.
Awesome. That's cool. So what do you think your favorite part of the whole draft process was?
I think definitely, for me, visiting the different teams. I've never been out past Las Vegas as far as going out west. And being able to go to Seattle, being able to go to Oakland, it was a great experience just to experience, other parts of the country and not to mention visit these NFL teams.
Definitely.
What was your least favorite part about it all?
I think the best part is also the worst part. While I got to see those cool cities, I think all the traveling, being in airplanes, missing class, having to catch up with that work was probably the most difficult part and the least enjoyable.
Yeah. So what was it like going through this whole process as a Division III guy, and did anyone give you any good advice?
Yeah. I mean, you look at some of these schools, the Division I schools that have, a laundry list of guys that have made it to professional sports, and, those are all resources. And, coming from Beloit, having two other guys only make it to the NFL draft, we don't really have that many guys I can, talk to. But thankfully we have Cecil Youngblood, who went to Augustana College and, played with the Chiefs. And I got to talk to him, and he's helped me out a lot. As well as Coach Brand. They both helped me out, just giving me advice, whether it's what to do with interviews or, what to do when I get to camp. They've both been really helpful.
That's awesome.
So through the process, did you enjoy being a sleeper, or would you have rather not, like, snuck up on people the way you did?
I think being a sleeper was perfectly fine. It didn't really matter to me whether I was going to go drafted or not. I knew I had a shot, to make it to a team, to get the opportunity to make a team. And that's ultimately just what mattered.
Definitely. So what was it like at the Wisconsin Pro Day, and were you nervous while you were going through all that stuff?
Yeah, I think I'd definitely be lying if I said I wasn't the least bit nervous. After all, I've been essentially working my entire life for that moment to, showcase my skills. And but in the end, when it came time to, get out there and start working, it was ultimately just playing football. So at the end, I was pretty comfortable.
That's good.
What position would you rather play in the NFL, wide receiver or tight end?
Well, I think, to be honest, even though I'd much rather play wide receiver just for longevity reasons, you look, wide receivers tend to have longer careers in the NFL than tight ends do, just because daily wear and tear on the bodies, not to mention in games, it's a lot more physical. But to be honest, whatever team, whatever Oakland wants me to play, whether it's receiver, whether it's tight end, I'll be willing to do, whatever they require of me.
Awesome. So what do you think your greatest strength is as a receiver or as a tight end?
I think for me, it's definitely the combination of size and speed. Being 240 pounds while also running, a 40 in the 4.4s range. I think you don't find that a lot, and that's definitely, characteristics that can create mismatches. Whether they decide to line up an outside linebacker or a safety, take advantage of that situation.
Definitely.
What about something that you think you would need to work on?
I think something, any tight end or any receiver can work on is route running. Being more precise, in and out of your breaks. I think that's something definitely, especially when you get to the next level and you have guys that are just as athletic, if not more athletic than you are, you need to work on the fine details to really get open to make a difference. And I think route running is where it's going to start.
So you kind of touched on this already, but what do you think is an attribute that's crucial to play and succeed at either of those positions?
Well, yeah, exactly. Well, I think route running is definitely, crucial. I think something that kind of goes unnoticed is definitely confidence. I think whether that's in terms of preparation, studying game film, knowing your assignments, knowing your routes, I think that ultimately leads to being confident in the game and being in that situation. I think that's one of the most important things as well.
Okay.
So did you have any mentors for the position or people that you kind of modeled yourself after?
Yeah, of course, being from Wisconsin, I watched the Green Bay Packers, and if you've watched them recently, you've known the success of Jordy Nelson. He's kind of the unsung hero in their wide receiving core, and I've always watched him and admired how he plays the position.
Now, what's the strangest question that any team asked you throughout this whole process? Because I know they like to mix in some weird stuff.
Yeah, I know when I was out in Seattle, one of the questions I got was, on a scale from 1 to Jerry Rice, how good are your hands? And that's pretty hard to, I don't know, but that's a pretty hard question because you're saying from 1 to the greatest receiver of all time. That's a pretty broad spectrum.
Yeah, definitely. What'd you say?
I said a 7. So.
Okay. All right. That's respectable.
What was your favorite moment going back to Beloit season during this senior season?
During our senior season, it was not exactly what everyone expected, including myself, going 2-8. But if I had to summarize and pick out one greatest moment of my football career, I think it would be my junior year win against St. Norbert, who was the eventual conference champion.
That was an amazing game. So now, is there one thing that you really want to work on or develop besides route running once you get to the NFL?
Yeah, I think it's definitely just being more comfortable playing at a faster pace, at a faster tempo. Like I said earlier, you have guys that can run just as fast as you can, which I didn't really experience too much of at the Division III level. I think getting used to that, the speed of play, how it picks up, will be one of the greatest things to do.
Okay.
So our curveball question, what's one thing you'd like the world to know about you that they may not already know?
Okay. Geez, when I was in high school, I was in a death metal band. Our name was Blood Beast.
Seriously?
Yeah.
What did you do
I
in the
played
band?
the drums.
All right.
Okay. Curveball. I like that. I did not expect that.
Nice.
All right. Well, great. Thanks again for your time, Derek. And if we don't talk to you before you leave, then good luck in Oakland. And
Thank you.
we hope you make the roster, and we'll be trying to talk to you soon. Make sure you look for the transcript of this blog or this interview on my Tom Melton's NFL Draft blog, as well as NFL Draft Monsters. And follow me on Twitter at @TMeltonScouting. Thanks again, Derek.
Thank you.
Thanks, Derek.